because I work for the NHS, I've got to start with a health warning. I don't know why we're going forward. The first thing is the words I'm going to say are my own, and they don't represent anybody else, not my employer, not those of my friends, not even those of my colleagues. But they're my thoughts, and you will see why I've had to put that warning out. I've got one of my directors in the room, so you know, it's all right, I won't be doing. But it's a personal musing. I've been involved in simulation and modelling for a very long time. I helped write a paper on the utility, a systematic review of the utility of it a long time ago. It's currently still my most cited paper, so I'm very proud of it. I'll keep mentioning that. And I also did quite a lot of work on uptake of screening versus case finding and its effectiveness when I was a registrar, and that was a long time ago. I'm now retired. So what is public health? And this is the first question. It's actually a core function of the state. If you don't have public health, you don't have a state. It is a core function. And you know, I've quoted Cato, and he must have got it from somewhere. So you know, it's very ancient. It's more than 2,000 years old, that idea. And it's defined now in modern speak as the organised efforts of society to improve the health of its members. So clearly, operational research should sit very comfortably with it. And unscheduled care we had, before I qualified, I was involved in modelling unscheduled care back in 1978. And at roughly 10-year intervals ever since, I find myself re-involved in modelling unscheduled care. And I was involved, and nice to see some of my inputs appearing on the slide before you. That's great. Unscheduled care is defined this way. And one of the interesting things about it, it's by a person requiring or seeking advice, help, or care. The patient is central. The system is completely irrelevant other than the state. One of the problems we have is everybody thinks about hospitals or doctors or surgeries, but actually you get public health effects in a tribal environment out in the forest. They still have public health systems. And what I would say, that might explain why, in the last 40 years, despite all the models, and I've got to put my hands up, I'm one of those who argued for them, we haven't found a solution. They keep coming back and biting us. You know, it's about 12 years and we're due for another one now. Oh yes, we have got a problem with unscheduled care. Right, that's where we are. So what would ideal care feel like? Well, first of all, it's got to be co-produced by the interaction between individuals. Funnily enough, people don't like listening to a machine and don't want to be examined by a machine. They want a nice, warm human beings, and they tend to like them to have warm hands as well. It's clear that the environment that they live in, the social and the physical environment, affects their health. And one of the problems we've got, we tend to think of illness as the problem rather than the lack of health. And one of the things is all about preventing illness rather than making sure that people are healthy so they can actually fight off illness. Illness and death are certain things in life. They just happen, and you just got to be ready for them. And the point is that they're all constantly changing. When I was training, peptic ulceration was the big surgical problem. It ain't now. It's gone away. In fact, I remember the introduction of cimetidine was produced, and we got a visit from a drug rep. Within 2 weeks, we'd stopped doing emergency repairs on people's guts. So a very quick change. And yet, the organisation had to respond to it within 2 weeks. Major change in phase. The conceptual model is a living entity. Now, you try and tell me how a cow decides what to do next. I don't believe you can predict what a cow or a hive of bees. It's something very different from a factory. And yet most of our tools are based on factory models. And I'm sorry, but it ain't right. We've actually got to go much closer to the swarm or the hive. That's why I like agent-based models, but because I think they're useful. Can modeling help? Certainly. One of the problems I have with models is we tend not to accept that they're going to amend themselves as they go along. And again, the Axelrod example of the prisoner's dilemma shows that you don't see things happening that you expected, they just emerge from the model. And what's interesting is that we're actually dealing with nonlinear systems, and yet we always focus on linear systems. We know that there's going to be this effect. Clinical reality tells me that I don't know, even if I give someone the recommended treatment, what the effect is going to be. I have an idea what it's likely to be, but 9 times out of 10, it ain't what's expected. So you have to deal not with the 1 time in 10 you get it right, but the other 9, which is actually reality. And so it's actually very much about aiding staff, the punters on the ground, not the high-ups who set the policies, which frankly are totally irrelevant to everyday life, but what punters on the wards, in the surgeries, out there in the communities are facing. Can they understand what's in their power to change? And I actually think that if we're going to try and build a model for Wales, we're in the very fortunate position of having about 3 million individuals. That's quite a large number for a model, a mathematical model. But of course, we actually break them up into practices, and there's about 450, 500 of them, of about 7,000. That's much more tractable to deal with as a model. And my own feeling is we should actually think about parallel process modelling of a whole population of Wales based on small models in an agent-based system. That's me doing a little bit of selling for my own favourite flavour of the month of modelling. But as you can see, I actually think modelling's good, but I think we've got to be very careful about what we use it for, and too often it's to answer a policy question when we haven't actually worked out what the problem is yet.